Hello, everybody. Today we're going to talk about pronouns. We're going to go through each of the types of pronouns and hopefully give you some better understanding of the various types. I'll elicit 7 different types before going into detail. All right, welcome everybody. We're going to talk about the 7 types of pronouns and focus on the indefinite pronouns and the negatives, how to express negative and definite pronouns because they can be a little bit tricky. So the aim of this live is to understand the various types, there are 7, and the different uses of the indefinite pronoun also in the negative form, which I think is going to be quite interesting. Now this live might go a little bit longer than normal. This is a very long live today. So if you can't watch it all, I will upload it onto my Instagram and my YouTube accounts later. The sources I'm using you can find here, Cambridge Dictionary and Scribendi. Both of them have been very valuable in compiling today's lesson. All right, what is a pronoun? Let's define it. I think it's important if we're going to talk about it, we should define it. A pronoun is a substitute for the noun or the noun phrase. So we have here man, the pronoun is he. Men, plural, the pronoun is they. Woman, one. She, now the tricky pronunciation, women, they. Animals, most animals are normally it. And we can also have noun phrases. So a tall, energetic girl can be she. So pronouns substitute for nouns and noun phrases. Hopefully that's clear. And let's move on to some examples. I'm gonna talk about the 7 types. You can break them down in different ways, but I'm gonna talk about 7 types. And hopefully you will have a better understanding of them, be more confident in using them, and then we're going to look at indefinite pronouns, which might cause us the most trouble, or the most problems. The first we know about, I think, so these are the easiest ones, the most common, personal pronouns in the subjective case, or, near the front of a sentence normally. I, you, she, he, it, and then you plural, and they, also we. And so then we have the objective case, so it changes a bit. Me, you, her, him, it, us, you, and them. So I invited her. I is the subjective pronoun. Her is the objective pronoun. I invited them. Them is the objective pronoun, if I would use it. And then finally, we have possessive pronouns. Now, this can cause problems for those who aren't intermediate level or higher, and I could talk about them at length in a different live, but these are showing possession. Mine, yours, hers, his, ours, theirs. So the bag is hers. That hers means her bag. The bag is ours. It's our bag. We own the bag. It's ours. So that's the possessive pronoun. I think a lot of us understand that. We're going to get into more difficult situations. So hold on. If this is easy, wait, because it'll get a little bit more difficult when we get to double negatives and how to express the negative form of pronouns in some cases. The demonstrative pronoun is to demonstrate or to show. So that's the clue. When you show or demonstrate, you say this or that. And so you're showing this or that, these or those. So let's look at an example. This is the dress I'll wear. That is the one I wore yesterday. And if you see, one acts as a pronoun, doesn't it? And One refers to dress. That over there is the one I wore yesterday. This is the one I'm wearing today. And how do you distinguish? There's a whole set of rules, but I want to simplify it into one general rule, and we can go over details in another live. But think of it in proximity. If you're talking about something near you or the topic is recent, it's probably this or these. And if it's over there or you talked about it perhaps in a different period, you could refer to it as that or those in the plural. Those is the plural. So we would say, these are the dresses I will wear. Those are the ones I wore yesterday. So you can see how the plural works. So that's demonstrative. Demonstrate is to show. So when you're showing people, oftentimes that's a clue. This or that. That might help you remember that name. Interrogative. This is to interrogate is to ask questions. Ask very penetrating or personal questions. So these are question pronouns. Who, whom, which, or what. So we have which is the best restaurant? What did he tell you? Whom should we invite to the party? All right, so these are the interrogative pronouns, and they are, you know about them because they are questions. And that's what interrogation means, actually. Another very common pronoun that a lot of us are aware of are the relative pronouns. Relative pronouns are who and whom. Remember, we had who and whom a minute ago, but these pronouns aren't in the question form. They signal the beginning of a clause, a relative clause. So we have who, whom, that, and which. Excuse me. And we also can use whoever, whomever, whichever when we want to use it in the position of the noun or the subject, of the subject. So this is quite interesting. So if we look here, whoever added the bill made a mistake. So whoever is the subject of the sentence. We couldn't say who added the bill because then it's a question. It changes the whole sentence structure or feel. So whoever, we add ever, and it now functions as a noun, or in this case, a subject. Whomever would be the object. All right. The bill, here's a relative clause, which included all our meals, was larger than expected. And finally, the relative pronoun with who, the waiter who served us, doesn't know the menu. Now, there should be a comma after us. For those of you grammar gurus, I have omitted a comma, which I'm going to put in now. All right, there's a comma after us. So those are relative pronouns, and now we get to a little bit more tricky. Now we start with the reflexive. Reflexive pronouns are those that refer back to the subject in most cases. She baked a cake for herself, or actually, she baked a cake herself. That herself refers back to she. She baked it, no one else. We decided to eat it ourselves. So we ourselves. So that's the reflexive part, is ourselves. And it refers back to the subject, we. So you can see the various types of reflective pronouns. Myself, yourself, herself, himself or hisself. It's an old form of himself. And itself, ourselves, yourselves, and themselves. And if you notice, self is at the end, and that is the clue that it's reflexive, the self part. All right, I hope that's clear. Now, what is a little bit tricky is the difference between reflexive and intensive. When you intensify something, you add to it, you give it more emphasis. And this is what an intensive pronoun does, and it looks very much like the reflexive pronoun. The difference is that you don't need, in the intensive pronoun, you don't need the myself, yourself. These are optional to add emphasis, to let people know it was you. So for example, I myself find pronouns fascinating. So I'm emphasizing that I actually like it a lot. I myself find pronouns fascinating. They themselves think everyone should know about pronouns. Now, the reason we know it's intensive is that we can omit these two and the sentence is still okay. I find pronouns fascinating is fine. They think everyone should know about pronouns is also fine. But you add this intensifier, which lets people know that you're underscoring it's me or this they that think that or whatever is being intensified at the time. All right, now the tricky part is the reflexive and the intensifiers both look the same. With the intensifiers, the intensive pronouns, they are optional. You can take them out and there's no problem with the sentence. All right, now we're going to go to the sort of the subject of our live or our video is the indefinite pronouns. I want to talk about these a little bit more at length. And if you have questions about any of the pronouns, please write your question in the button. It's the question button at the bottom of your screen. And if you don't have it, you probably need to update your Instagram app. So indefinite pronouns, you can read all of them. There are many, including the word all, another, any, anybody, anyone. There are many of them here. And they refer to an identifiable but not specified person or thing. So we didn't say their name, we referred to a pronoun. Now sometimes it's a said or an unknown person, but the point is that we don't know exactly who it is in most cases. So let's take a look at some examples of these indefinite pronouns. So here are general examples. I know someone who gives piano lessons. So if I say that, someone, it means I know the person, you don't know yet, but I know exactly who it is. I know someone who gives piano lessons. Somebody has obviously made a mistake. Now, this is interesting because we don't know who it is. Somebody has made a mistake, a person has made a mistake, but we don't know exactly who it is. We might have an idea, maybe it's one of these three people, but we don't know exactly. Can you hear something? We don't know what it is, but can you hear something? There was no mistaking the smell burning, the smell. Burning, there was a fire somewhere. We don't know where the fire was, but it was somewhere. All right, those are general examples. We're going to go through many more here, and then you can ask questions if you get confused. All right, somebody and someone. So the difference between having one at the end and having body at the end, there's no difference in meaning. Some people say there's a difference in formality. That might be. It's not immediately apparent to me, but everyone says it's different. We can no longer assume that because someone can do the job, they can teach the skill. So someone, we could substitute it for somebody. Somebody's got to say something to her. If you notice here, somebody performs this. It's the subject of the sentence, and it's a possessive. You have an apostrophe S. Somebody has, actually, it's not possessive here. Somebody has got, sorry about that. It's a contraction. Somebody has got to say something, and we can contract it to somebody's got. But somebody here plays the role of a noun, but the point is somebody and someone mean the same thing. Let's move to another example. here, I want to just draw your attention to something that's very confusing for a lot of English learners. Are you ready? Someone or somebody is singular. So somebody plays or somebody is playing the trumpet. But look at this. When you refer to the pronoun of someone, it changes. Often it changes to the plural. Watch this. Never judge someone by the way they look. They, do you see? They refers to someone. Now this is why it's confusing. Someone is singular. It takes a singular verb. But they is used as a pronoun of someone. So it's like a second pronoun, and we normally use they. We could use he or she, but it's not so common. When you're speaking, you would never say that. If you're writing formally, you might, but most formal journals, formal stylists will accept they as a substitute for someone, somebody, anyone, anybody. And we're going to get to anyone right now, and it's the same thing. When you have anyone, it also, the substitute or the pronoun for anyone is they. If anyone wants, singular verb, if anyone would like further information about the dogs, they should call. Now that's confusing, but you have to remember it. They should call. Now you can say he should call or she should call, but if you don't know the gender, then it could be a mistake. So they covers both genders, and we just assume we understand that they is singular. And that's very counterintuitive. I understand it. But that's how English grammar functions at the sort of communicative level. If anyone wants, if anyone would like further information about the dogs, they should call. Plural pronoun. All right, now we're going to look at just a few different examples of anyone, anybody, anything before we look at some and any. But these all refer to both an open, unlimited set of things or a specific set. So listen to this. Has anyone got a dictionary? So we don't know who, but we know it's someone who can hear us. So it's someone in the room. So it's open, technically unlimited, but it's probably reserved the specific set of people who can hear my voice. Anybody is welcome to join. Can I do anything to help? So you don't know exactly what the person needs, and you're saying, I'll do anything. That's a very open phrase, actually, but it's limited to what people are physically able to do, both with time and energy and money. I don't know anybody who speaks Spanish. Now, this is very broad. That means no friend of yours speaks Spanish. So that's a very broad set of people. But it's a set of people that your friend doesn't know about exactly. All right, I don't know anybody. Now we're going to get to negatives in a minute. We're going to look at the negatives because this can be a little bit tricky with negatives. And I think we're going to get to it very quickly, even now. Yeah, we're going to look at negative context now. This is where it gets a little bit tricky for people. Now we're entering the intermediate, upper intermediate levels here. For those of you who are need some brushing up with some and any, we're going to look at those straight away. How do we differentiate between some and any? And here's general rules. These aren't all the rules, but these are, I think, the main rules, the ones you want to remember first. All right, some is most common in the positive sense. He's got some homework. We would never say he's got any homework. That doesn't work in English. It's positive. He's got some homework. Now, if we want to use any is most commonly associated with the negative form or class. He hasn't got any homework. So has not any, hasn't got any homework. And so that's, I think, quite interesting. So some is generally more positive in positive sentences, affirmative sentences, and any is negative. But when we move to questions, this is where we can use both or either some or any. Now look at this. This is where it gets interesting. Has he got any homework? So if you say any homework, it means you don't know if he has homework or if he doesn't have it. So you ask, does he have any homework? Maybe yes, maybe no. If you ask, has he got some homework? There might be an understanding that he does have some homework, but you're not sure, but probably he does. Has he got some homework? There's a small difference in those questions. And so we can do it in the negative sense and it has the same meaning. Hasn't he got any homework? It's actually the same question as the first one. Has he got any homework? Hasn't he got any homework? Meaning you think he probably, you're not sure if he does or not, but you're asking. Hasn't he got some homework? This presupposes that he does have some homework. Hasn't he got some homework? I thought he did. So there's a slight difference there. Any is more open. Some is intimating that, yes, he does. All right, you can ask questions about those. We're going to move now to something and anything. Now, this is really interesting when we look at something and anything and the slight difference in meaning. Are you ready? Didn't she bring something to eat? Means, I think she did bring something to eat. Didn't she bring anything to eat? Means you're surprised she didn't bring something. You're surprised. Oh my gosh, I thought she would bring something. She brought nothing. Didn't she bring something to eat? I think she did. Didn't she bring anything to eat? I'm surprised she brought nothing. So if you can't feel that, you should practice it until you start to feel it. But there is a very big difference. And when you're having a conversation, this difference, though small, makes a really big change in the attitude of the person asking the question. In the first question, didn't she bring something, is more positive, more optimistic, meaning I think she brought something to the party. The second one is disbelief and perhaps a little bit angry or offended that she or he didn't bring something to eat. All right, let's move to the next. We're nearly finished and we'll get to your questions. All right, no one, nobody, nothing, and nowhere. These are, they're negatives and they're singular, just like any and some, anybody, somebody. We looked at those earlier. And they refer to an absence of people, things, or places. I think all of you know this. Nobody, but this is what I want to emphasize. It's a singular subject in this case. Nobody goes. Nothing happens. There was nowhere to park. And watch this. Do you remember when we had they as the pronoun? It works exactly the same with these four here. No, or at least with no one and nobody. No one remembers the titles of the books they've read. They've read. So it's a singular subject with a singular verb with a plural pronoun. And that can be confusing for some of you. So remember that. That's the salient point I want to make. Salient, I've used this in an earlier live. Salient is the most or the clearest example I could use. All right, we are nearly finished. I'm going to do the double negatives. Now, in many languages, you can have a double negative, not, don't. So don't nothing. You can have these sort of not and nothing. In English, you generally cannot do that. So I did nothing. So nothing is the negative. Or we can say I didn't do anything. Now what's interesting is I didn't do anything is clear, but if I say I did nothing, it's stronger. You're underscoring that you did zero, nothing, nada, nothing at all. She told no one. She didn't tell anyone. So she told no one is clear because you're telling exactly zero people. Anyone, it's implied zero. Now here's where we have the double negatives that you must avoid. I can't do anything. We cannot say I can't do nothing because not and nothing are two negatives, and in English we can't have that. So I can't do anything, and interestingly, hardly functions as a negative here. She talks to hardly anyone. You can't say hardly no one. That is informal and incorrect English, all wrapped up into one. Finally, we end on with this, the exceptions to the double negative. And I love these exceptions because I use them a lot in my own writing. But we can use not and un for some reason in English, and it doesn't make sense because un is rightly considered negative, but it's not in a grammatical context. So we can say not unexpected. This year's rise in inflation to 3% was not unexpected. In other words, it was not surprising. People thought it might happen. The repair cost £50. That's not unreasonable. That means it's reasonable. That's not unreasonable means it's reasonable. That's not unexpected means that was sort of expected. So here is these are the exceptions to the double negative. I'm the common exceptions and the ones I use rather frequently, I must say. I really like these. Okay, I'm going to open it up now to your questions. If you have any related to pronouns or anything else, then we can do it. Thank you.